you'll be using this quite a lot. So here you have limit x tends to 0, and this is 2 sine square theta. It is half angle, so 4x will become 2x, and down you have a x square. Again, you need to repeat the angle. So this is 4 and 4. Okay, so this will be limit of x tends to 0, 8, and this will be sine 2x upon 2x the whole square. Taking the limit, the answer will be 8. So this will be equal to limit x tends to 0. So this will be 2 sine ax plus bx upon 2. The angle needs to be repeated. So we have a plus b upon 2, and then you do this, and here you have b minus a upon 2, and that. So this 2 is getting cancelled here. So taking the limit, you will get 1 into 1, and here you will have b square minus a upon 2. The answer is b square minus a upon 2. So if it was just x, we could have taken this as sine 3x upon x, okay, this way. But this is not just x, it is x cubed. So the list of formulas that we did, in that we had sine 3 theta. I'll take this on the other side and bring this here. What do we get? We get 4 times sine cube theta as 3 sine theta minus sine 3 theta. Okay, so that can be applied here. So we get limit x tends to 0, 4 sine cube x upon x cube, which can be written as sine x upon x the whole cube. And taking the limit, the answer is 4. The only thing that requires x in the denominator is sine, and there is only one sine in the numerator, one in the denominator. So we can say dividing the angle needs to be repeated. So this is 3, this is 2. And then when we are taking the limit, we get 3 times 1. This is cos of 0. This is 2 times 1. Cos 0 is 1. So the answer is 3 by 2. So in this, what I'm going to write, let x minus pi is t. So as x tends to pi, what is the meaning of that? The value of x is becoming closer and closer to pi. X minus pi will become close to 0. Okay. And that means t will become 0. So this is the idea that is important. So as x becomes pi, t will become 0 because of this relation between them. So we have limit of t tends to 0. Okay, so we can write, in place of this, we can write this. And wherever we have x, we can write x as pi plus t. So here we have 1 plus cos x. So cos x will become pi plus t. And this is t. Okay. Again, pi plus t, we go back to our unit circle.
Negative.
Yeah. This is equal to pi plus theta. And I told you this is on the horizontal. So cos remains cos, sine remains sine. And depending upon the quadrant, they are plus or minus. So it is the third quadrant where sine and cos both are negative. So limit t tends to 0. I'll get 1 minus cos t over t. Okay, just now we have seen that 1 minus cos is 2 sine square. So we get limit t tends to 0. I'll get 2 sine square t by 2. But down we just have a t. And now you have a sine square. So I have to multiply by t up and down. So we have 2 sine square t by 2. And here there is a t square. And let that t be on top. To match the angle, we need a 4. So therefore, there is a 4 here as well. So this is limit t tends to 0. Sine t by 2 the whole square. This is t. And this is 1 by 2 because this 2 ones are, this is 2 twos are. Taking the limit, what do we have here? 1 squared, 0 and a half. So that answer is 0. We'll take pi by 2 minus x as t. So as x tends to pi by 2, t tends to 0. And this is going to give me pi minus 2x as 2t. Okay, so and also 2x is pi minus 2t. So I can write limit t tends to 0, 1 plus cos pi minus 2t. And here I have 2t squared. So 1 plus cos is equal to, pi minus theta. Again, if we go by this, pi minus theta is going to bring me to the second quadrant because cos is negative in the second quadrant. So this is equal to 1 minus cos t, cos 2t, sorry. And this is 4t squared. 1 minus cos is 2 sine square, half angle. So that is 2 sine square t. This is 4t squared. We can take this half, 2 ones are, 2 twos are. Limit t tends to 0. Now taking the limit 1 square, answer is half. So in this you have limit x tends to 1 and this will be x minus 1 upon x, and this is sine pi x minus 1. So this I can also write it as limit x tends to 1, 1 upon x, x minus 1, and sine of pi into x minus 1. So what did we learn earlier? That the angle needs to be repeated. Now here you can either do change of limit, okay, so or you can just say that the idea required is x tends to 0, sine of an angle upon the angle. Means basically what I'm trying to say is sine of angle, whatever the angle is, should also tend to 0. Is it tending to 0? Yes, because as x is approaching 1, x minus 1 will approach 0. So you can write it that way. And you can have a pi over here and a pi down because you're multiplying and dividing. And then when you take the limit, or you can just mention that as x tends to 1, x minus 1 tends to 0, and you are taking the limit. So when you take the limit, what happens? This is 1, and this gives you 1. Okay. And so the answer is 1 over pi. The other way is from this point, if you have to write, let x minus 1 equal to t, and then you write as x tends to 1, t tends to 0, and you change your limit to t tends to 0, and this will be pi t plus 1, and here you will have pi t and sine of pi t. This answer, sorry. Yeah. And this is tan square x. So if I take let pi minus x as t, so as x tends to pi, t will tend to 0. So you get limit t tends to 0, 1 plus sec cube. What will be x? X will be pi minus t. And here you have tan square of pi minus t. Now you know that 180 minus theta for cos is negative, so sec will also be negative. And this is a cube, which is an odd power. And therefore, it is going to give you 1 minus sec cube t. Tan is also negative, but this is a square of tan. So you will have just tan square t over here. Okay. And this is sec cube. Then we use the formula that is a cube minus b cube. So that will be 1 minus sec t, 1 plus sec t plus sec square t. Tan square, we use the trig identity 1 plus tan square theta is equal to sec square theta. So tan square theta can be written as sec square theta minus 1, which will become negative of 1 minus sec square. So that will be 1 minus sec t, 1 plus sec t. Okay. And now what do we do? As t tends to 0, sec of t will tend to 1. Therefore, 1 minus sec t will tend to 0. Okay. But 1 minus sec t is not equal to 0 because it is just tending to 0. And that gives us an opportunity to strike this off. And we have limit of t tends to 0. You have 1 plus sec t plus sec square t. And you have 1 plus sec t. Okay, they are harmless because as t becomes 0, it is going to become 1. So that is negative 3 by 2. That is the answer.